Hello, this is Badger, and today I'm going to show you why the official HD port of San Andreas on the consoles, or so-called remastered version, is a disaster and a huge disappointment. And this is not just my opinion, this is what the GTA community thinks about it as well. It's no secret that Wardrum Studios, the studio that was hired by Rockstar Games to develop this version, had zero care for the quality of the product, and I can easily prove that. How can you enjoy the game if you have to deal with countless bugs that they never bothered to fix even to this day? What about the strange and broken enhancements that people don't even enjoy? Should I mention that they basically ported their mobile port over to the Xbox and PS3 and they didn't even try to hide it? Without any further ado, let's discuss the broken Xbox 360 version first. The Xbox 360 version was the first remastered release on the consoles. It was released exactly on the 10th anniversary of this game's initial PlayStation 2 release and less than a year after they released the mobile port. In the beginning of its life cycle, it was available only on Xbox Live as an Xbox Live Arcade title where it replaced the original Xbox version once and for all. And people were quite angry about it. The various forums were flooded with negative feedback about this new version. People reported tons of annoying bugs and they blamed the developers for very poor optimization. The game was basically unplayable and they begged the developers to fix issues such as countless game crashes as soon as possible. Interestingly enough, very shortly after the release, the developers did release a title update for this version, and you know what? The only thing they fixed was the poor optimization. They didn't even bother to fix the rest of the problems, which you can still experience to this day. So let's talk about them. The longer your game session lasts, the higher the chances to get these annoying graphical corruptions. If you manage to trigger them, then be prepared to experience all kinds of weird stuff, including semi-visible screen mirroring, semi-transparent objects, the chessboard effect, and other weird effects that don't let you see jack in the game. For the most part, the game becomes unplayable. But the question that remains is, how can you fix it? Well, you can always restart the game, and before doing so, you can save your game in a safe house without even worrying about the consequences. On the other hand, if you are unlucky enough, then you won't have the time to do so because you might get a black screen. So your best bet is just pray that this doesn't happen and save your progress. Fun fact. Usually, these screen glitches are caused by a hardware malfunction in the game, and it was a common problem on the Xbox 360 with its 3 red rings of death. Imagine the face of a player who doesn't know it's just a glitch and not a problem with their console or TV. That's what I call an unfunny prank. Do you know what could be considered the worst problem with this version? Well, you might not be able to complete the game because of fatal glitches, and the first one is waiting for you in one of the pilot school missions. When you finish the second lesson by the name of Land Plane, the game, as always, will show you your medal. But as soon as you press A to continue, the game will simply freeze on the next preview screen. And the only way to get out of this situation is to manually restart your console. As soon as you load the game and return to your progression via the resume button, you'll notice now that even the first pilot school lesson freezes the console in the same way. Starting from this very moment, you'll realize that you can't progress through the game any further unless you know one simple trick. As soon as you enter the red marker, you have to bash that A button on your controller. If you did it correctly, then the game will skip any problematic preview screen and you can finish these lessons. Just forget about watching the previews. Should I mention that this is a well-known issue that the developers don't want to fix? What if a player doesn't know about this trick? How are they going to complete the game? Go figure. If you somehow manage to complete the pilot school, then the next surprise that's waiting for you is in the homecoming mission, where we have to drive to the Los Santos police headquarters to pick our old friend up and drive him back home. Some players were really pissed during this mission because as soon as they got close to the LSPD headquarters, the game froze in the same way it did during the pilot school lessons. So far, the GTA community found 3 different solutions to complete it. Some people were lucky enough to complete the mission by taking a longer route to the headquarters like on this picture. The rest completed it by destroying these 2 cars in the beginning. The most successful and easiest solution seems to be to drive this black Vincent, which is offered by the mission. But how can you enjoy this game if you have to fight with it? Add to that countless other bugs. For instance, you have to deal with sudden audio track disappearance during the cutscenes.
Kid, just doing my part for the community. Your trains.
And it happens a lot in this broken version.
Hey, fuck you, cabron. What?
Fortunately, the sound returns when the cutscene ends, but if you want to listen to the dialogue, you're gonna have to fail the mission and pray that the sound doesn't disappear again.
We gotta stick with them.
You know what? Sometimes the game can even mix up the cutscene audio. For example, instead of listening to the normal dialogue, you'll hear a tide instead. This isn't a montage. Experienced people will easily confirm this. Others have even said that the game enabled a radio station during the cutscenes, but then the game crashes. This is something that I didn't experience during my playthrough, but I'd imagine that it would look something like this.
Tommy the Nightmare Smith.
Well, don't forget about the rest of the minor bugs that were introduced in this version. No one really cared if the player can see through Carl's textures now. I guess people call it the alpha bug. Don't you think that this 10th anniversary gift just sucks? It's kinda sad that we have to deal with all kinds of irritating stuff now, and it sure can piss you off. I hope you understand now why people weren't so happy to play this version, and we're not done yet discussing this broken remastered release. Interestingly enough, after about half a year, they finally decided to release this version on disc. If you see a copy of GTA San Andreas with an Xbox 360 logo, then you should know that you're buying the remastered version and not something else. Don't even ask me why they decided to use the original screenshots from the original version on the backside. It's a marketing trap. Just avoid it if you want. Did you know that it's now possible to play this disc on the Xbox One? Say thanks to the backwards compatibility feature from Microsoft. As a result, we can enjoy this broken version on Xbox One too, and I doubt that they fixed the bugs. I see that people still report them even today. Despite the fact that the Xbox 360 version was a disaster, they also decided to release this remastered version on the PlayStation 3 as well. Starting from the 1st of December 2015, after half a year since the Xbox physical release, this version appeared on PSN, where it replaced the original PS2 Classics release. At the same time, Amazon started selling it on discs. I guess Rockstar Games acknowledged the controversial situation with the Xbox 360 release, and as a solution, they simply didn't announce this PS3 version. Yeah, that's right, this version came out of nowhere, and I wonder why. But anyway, if you see GTA San Andreas with the PS3 logo, then you should know that you're buying the remastered version and not something else. Don't even ask me why they decided to use the original screenshots from the original version again, that's a trap as well. Luckily for us, the PS3 version received some minor tweaks and changes. Almost all those major Xbox issues I showed you were finally fixed, but with a few exceptions. Don't expect that the freezes and lags are gone forever on this new platform. According to the forums, it crashes a lot too. Just look at these comments, people are angry about experiencing these problems. Also, the famous pilot school glitch I showed you doesn't occur for everyone now. Some people reported that they didn't have this bug, while the rest said they were dead stuck. If they were affected, then they could simply pass these lessons by bashing the X button on the gamepad. This is the same trick, which works for both consoles. On the other hand, this version introduced a completely new bug, and this one prevents you from proceeding any further than the beginning of the game. Yep, I'm talking about the Life's a Beach mission for OG Loke. The problem is, the dancing section during this mission becomes very challenging. No matter how hard you try to press the buttons in the center of the circle, you won't ever get a decent score in this mission. And what's worse is that the game doesn't give a perfect evaluation for your moves anymore. Instead, you'll just see a good evaluation, which won't help you much, so be prepared to see this stupid mission failed screen over and over again. Oh, and hey, don't forget that you have to dance on the dates as well, which of course will be ruined unless you know a dirty trick to achieve a high score. Instead of pressing the buttons in the center of the circle like you're supposed to, you instead have to press them a little bit later. By doing so, you'll notice that the game will start giving you a perfect evaluation and your score will skyrocket. Even if you made a lot of mistakes during the dancing section, you could still pass this stupid mission. Just look at how badly I was dancing in this footage. But according to my score, I was a great dancer. But anyway, who would even know that the game has a stupid lag in the dancing minigame now? I thank the developers for that nightmare. As you can see, we are mainly talking here about various fatal bugs and glitches in this game, which never occurred in the original game. I guess it's finally time to start talking about more bugs, which were initially introduced in the mobile port of the game. Believe it or not, you now have an ability to move the clouds in the sky. As soon as you rotate the camera, the clouds will teleport here and there. This is something you cannot ignore in this version. Fortunately, the developers managed to fix it on the PS3, but only partly. And why partly? Well, that's because sometimes this bug appears on this platform too, but at least not as often. Do you want some friendly advice? Stay away from the water in this version. If not, you might get a heart attack from seeing this nightmare. Why does it have to look so bad? Take a look at the original game, there's a smooth transition. Of course, the border where it happens is still visible, but, well, it's still better in that regard. Here's another piece of friendly advice for you. Don't drive too fast in the countryside. If you do so, then you'll see these strange graphical corruptions on the Xbox version. If you play this game on PS3, then you'll see these white stripes. Strange, huh? Take a look at this footage captured from the original version. I want you to remember that the distant objects are gently covered in fog, and it looks okay, I guess. And now, take a look at the remastered version. Doesn't it look ugly? Where's the fog, and why do we see this strange wall? Rotate the camera and it'll follow you. You know what? It looks even worse during the foggy weather. It doesn't even look natural. I guess you already know that in this version, you won't hear these music tracks due to the music license issues. But did you know that they removed these songs very poorly and broke the radio? For instance, while listening to your favorite radio station, the song can suddenly rewind back or go forward. Sometimes the track might suddenly change. There's no montage here. I bet you experienced the same thing by yourself. This radio station bug annoys players the most in the Xbox version, where it usually happens every 5 minutes, and it can get really annoying. A lot of people complain that the game doesn't dispatch firefighters or ambulances anymore, and the players were quite unhappy about it. Well, the truth is, both of them do appear in the game. Look, there comes the ambulance. Oh wait, it disappeared. Well, at least the firefighter... Oh, never mind, he disappeared as well. The same thing happens with rival gang cars during a turf war. But at least it makes it easier for you to take over the turf. And lastly, it'll happen with planes too. Who knows, maybe even more stuff vanishes in the same way. On the other hand, sometimes they do spawn around without disappearing. As far as I can see, it somehow depends on your camera angle. Did you know that this bug doesn't happen if you're playing the game with RCA cables? Do you know why? Well, the developers broke the widescreen resolution somehow because this bug depends on the aspect ratio. Can someone explain to us why the developers didn't fix the broken gearbox in the remastered version? Why does the car start to jump as soon as we accelerate, like if it was a lowrider or something? Some people are joking that CJ doesn't have a damn clue how to drive cars in this broken version. Luckily for us, the bug doesn't slow the car down. As you can see, there's no differences between Remastered and PS2 in this case, which is a good sign, right? It's still annoying, though. Believe it or not, this annoying bug was finally fixed in the latest mobile version of the game. And that's cool, but what about the rest of the versions? Did you notice that if you steal someone's car, the driver will sometimes get a heart attack now? Turns out it'll happen if you enter someone's car from the passenger side door holding the accelerator or if you try to reverse. If you did it correctly, then the driver will exit the car and instantly die. See? Looks like a heart attack. But anyway, this isn't really a new bug in the game. In order to trigger it in the original version, you have to hold the handbrake while entering the car in the same way. Now, just imagine that you're cruising around the city and suddenly you want to take a look at the radar. Sorry fella, it hasn't loaded yet, so enjoy the blurry mess instead. As funny as this might seem, you actually have to wait a bit for it to load. You need to have a lot of patience to play this version. Sometimes when you pause the game, you'll see that the game tries to load every single map segment in real time. This version has serious streaming problems, I see. For some reason, at least 2 missions in this version have no cutscene skip option anymore. I'm talking about the famous Reuniting the Families mission and that hated air raid mission for Zero. If you fail one of these missions, you're gonna have to watch the cutscenes again from the beginning. Want to see the most pointless option on the menu? That would be the subtitles option, which you can turn on or off, but even if you disable this, you'll still see subtitles on your screen. Does anyone know what it really does? As far as I can see, it hides the subtitles in the cutscenes, but what's the common sense of having such an option? I'm gonna guess that you aren't going to enjoy this next glitch at all, because there's a chance in the remastered version that a quote during a mission won't even play. Here's an example.
Hey, I'm a Johnson boy.
What's more sad is the fact that the subtitles for this missing quote didn't load either. Now you'll never know what happened. If you are pretty pissed about the previous bug, then here's what you can do. You can pause and unpause the game during the speech, and then the quote will repeat from the beginning.
All we had to do was
Do you feel better now? I hope so. A lot of people claim that Carl in this version swims much slower than before. It's most noticeable in the famous triathlon mission where your rivals always swim way ahead of you and it becomes practically impossible to win the swimming segment. Should I mention that players never had similar problems in the original version? So, let's compare Carl's swimming speed with the PS2 version by playing the game simultaneously. As you can see, people were actually right. For some odd reason, Carl swims slower in the remastered version. If you're wondering what Carl's stats are during this section, they were completely the same. This proves that the triathlon in the remastered version, as people are now saying, has become a nightmare. No wonder why people try to find various ways to cheat during it. I guess a lot of you already know about this next famous bug, when the game recolors broken car parts. The game somehow remembers the color of a vehicle which previously lost its parts. And as soon as you find the same vehicle and smash those parts which are missing on the old vehicle, they'll change their color. Yup, I wasted some time trying to figure out how this bug works. This is what the developers should have done in the past. Do you know what else they didn't bother to fix since the mobile port? A bug involving a special date with Michelle which becomes impossible to complete. To remind you of this special date, it's the one where she takes control of your vehicle and cruises around the city with us. All you have to do is enjoy the ride with the cinematic camera until she decides to return home. This is the easiest kind of date, by the way. Sadly, it is completely broken in the remastered version. As soon as Carl allows her to take the wheel, she just drives away. Starting from this very moment, we're stuck in the cinematic mode not knowing what to do. After a short period of time, the date actually fails and your progress with Michelle decreases. It wouldn't be so bad if the game at least gave us the normal camera back. However, there is one simple trick you can use during this broken date. If you press the exit vehicle button and jump out of the car, the date will fail, but at least this time the game will deactivate the cinematic camera. I mean, I guess it isn't really a fix for the date, but at least you won't need to restart the game. Also, what can you say about this mysterious barrier in the desert? The more you look at it, the more it'll hypnotize you. Also, don't forget that you can't see your weapons through glass anymore. They don't render through transparent material for some reason, and it looks kinda strange. While you're doing a drive-by, I can just imagine the CJ shooting with his fingers now. I mean, what else are you supposed to think? Take a look at how CJ is buying a soda. He inserts the coin, presses a button, and then drinks the soda. Pretty long and boring process, huh? Well, that's probably what the game thinks at least, because after some time it allows CJ to skip those two first boring steps so you can just go right to drinking soda as fast as you can. Of course, there are many more bugs in this version, and sadly they're migrating from one platform to another, and the developers aren't even bothering to fix them. Should I mention that 99% of these bugs are absent in the original version? But hey, enough about bugs, let's finally start talking about the enhancements in this version. And why not take a look at the enhanced character models? Okay, can someone explain to us why these so-called enhanced character models have broken facial expressions? I mean, just look at how different this is from the original version. Can you really say these models are enhanced? Did you ever ask yourself why Tenpenny looks so atrocious in this version? I mean, seriously, what is wrong with his upper lip? Is this a joke? Well, at least Pulaski doesn't look so bad. I mean, he has a swollen right eye now, but still, that's not too bad. And now take a look at Dwayne. You don't have to be a genius to see that his left eye is closed in this version, because he thinks he's a pirate now. The truth is, every single character in this version has broken facial expressions. Either you can clearly see them, or you have to compare them side by side to notice. And speaking of a side-by-side comparison, these enhanced models seem to be much blockier than their original counterparts. Just look at Pulaski's eyelids and you'll see what I mean. Even if we export both of these models to 3ds Max, we can still see the same picture. The enhanced models are indeed more blocky. But hey, did you notice that the facial expressions aren't broken in this environment? It seems the enhanced models aren't broken, it's just that the game is broken. You also might ask me, what about their textures, aren't they enhanced? The truth is, they were compressed, but you have to use a magnifier to find the difference, so it's not too relevant. Actually, I have one complaint about the compression. Just look at the Los Santos cop in this version. Can someone tell us what was the reason to compress his texture so much? Looks like the guy has pimples or some kind of skin disease now. You want to know more mysteries about the textures? Well, for some reason, OG Loke in this version uses a beta texture. You can clearly see that this texture is a black bandana like on the pre-release screenshots, along with a never-before-seen gangster mustache. How did they not notice that the texture looks a little bit off on his head? But hey, at least his in-game model uses the right texture, which is a good sign, right? Well, no. If the player isn't blind, then they'll clearly see that this gangster has an ability to change his look after the cutscene. They just introduced a new bug. By the way, have you ever noticed that Kendall in this version has 2 skin tones? I mean, your eyes aren't lying to you because her texture does indeed have 2 skin tones. Just look at this. Her head is the same color as in the original version, while the rest of her body is a little bit brighter. Poor Kendall, what did they do to you? By now, you might be asking, where are the so-called enhancements that were being praised by Rockstar Games on the newswire? Well, they do exist. For instance, the enhanced characters received improved hand models. Believe it or not, they actually look quite decent now, and you can perfectly see it with your eyes, too. On the other hand, not all the characters receive these new hand models. You can still spot the old hand models in some cutscenes. I bet they didn't have the patience to improve all the cutscene models. I also noticed that the police badge was merged with the character's torso. This means that it won't collide with the body anymore. I think there might be more improvements, like improved texture mapping, but good luck trying to find them amongst all the new imperfections. By the way, did you know that Ryder in the remastered version uses his better gameplay texture in the cutscenes now? As this pre-release trailer suggests, this was his default texture during the cutscenes. For some odd reason, this texture was always used only by his in-game model. As a result, you won't see Ryder change his appearance after the cutscenes anymore. I'm 99% sure they just mixed up the textures here too, because other characters still have this issue, which remains unfixed in this version. Okay, let's talk about some serious stuff now. And when I say serious, I mean the enhanced CJ model. I bet you know how horrible Carl Johnson looks in the cutscenes now. Just look at his eyebrows. What about his deformed and broken mouth? This is what they call an enhancement, guys. I'd call it a nightmare. Did you know that his deformed face depends on his weight? Now, I agree, that sounds pretty stupid, but his fat model doesn't look so bad. So if you don't want to resemble a washcloth, you better gain some calories at the Cluck and Bell. However, if Carl is fat and muscular, then his body in the cutscenes becomes totally broken. Don't you agree that we shouldn't see this in our game? On the bright side, his in-game model doesn't appear to have distinct imperfections like his cutscene model does, but this is only at first glance. If you look very carefully, then you'll definitely notice that his skinny model has very narrow eyes. Do you know how to fix it? Well, if you become fat, he'll finally open his eyes. Or you can simply change clothes. This isn't a joke either. If CJ wears a t-shirt, he'll start squinting. But as soon as you put on something decent, he'll open his eyes then. It's like magic. You want to see some more strange stuff? Well, if you're skinny CJ, visit a tattoo salon. Take a look at his face. What, do you take a strong punch while boxing or something? If Carl's fat, then his face will look normal, and very happy. If his in-game model is fat and muscular, then you'll see more strange stuff. For instance, his torso will collide with his pants. Hey, what about this? This looks creepy. Can someone explain to us how does this work and why do we see this in this version? You know, the more I look at the remastered version, the more I respect the original version of the game. Oh, and be prepared to see the most incredible face in the history of San Andreas Remastered. Oh, Carl, what have they done with you? I was thinking, maybe they were testing and developing the game playing only with the fat model. Or maybe they didn't really care about any of this. I'm sure you won't argue now that Carl was enhanced in this version, but did you know that his textures were improved as well? Yeah, that's right. All his textures, which are stored in the player texture container, were vastly improved. You're not dreaming, these are CJ's new body textures. Looks decent, I guess. Can't believe my eyes. But there's one stupid thing about this. Why do the rest of his textures look like they were just stretched out? I mean, look at them, they're clearly just enlarged and full of artifacts. Thanks to this weird approach they took when making the game, the Base 5 t-shirt became an Ease 5 t-shirt, although I must admit it does look a little bit sharper now. I noticed that some textures actually received some polishing while the rest were left as is. Here's my favorite. Instead of prolapse, we now see fardos or something similar. I'm 99% sure they just didn't care, nor did they have the patience to make it right. And how else can we explain that CJ, just by wearing some clothes, has skin problems now? Just look at his head, it has a different tone now. I'm sure you're already sick of looking at all these textures and other imperfections, so let's try to look at something else instead. Does anyone know why the developers decided to zoom the camera out in the cutscenes, which broke them as a result? To understand what I'm talking about a little better, let's take a look at this cutscene from the remastered version. And now let's have the same cutscene from the original version on top. As a result, now we see what we aren't supposed to see, and it's actually a huge problem. For example, in the original version, you would never see that Smoke's car in the background is having a seizure. Fortunately, this issue isn't present on the PS3, but the rest of the versions have a lot of strange moments in the cutscenes now, so let's take a look at some of them. In this scene, as soon as Beat Up closes the door, CJ ends up in the wall. Why are the characters in this cop car levitating? Hey, check out what Pulaski can do, too. Looks like Caesar also has the power of levitation, and he can pretend he's getting out of a car. Kendall was walking away, but now you can see that she's just frozen in the background. Hey, in this version, you can see a little better that our crew ended up misplaced and in a T-pose. Later in the scene, you can see how the food appears in Smoke's hands out of nowhere. And you can see more of these wacky moments in almost every single cutscene since the mobile port. I was thinking, what if the developers were skipping the cutscenes while working on the remaster and therefore they didn't even notice these bugs? That would be stupid, but honestly it's very plausible. Thanks for at least fixing it on the PS3, fellas, I guess. And speaking of console differences, you can obviously see that they're all a little bit different from each other, so let's talk about this a bit more. Despite the fact that we are basically playing the mobile port, I was very surprised to see that the developers decided to bring back two-player mode, but sadly it's only for the PS3. If you have a second controller and a friend, then you can either try to complete a rampage or just try to have fun in free roam like in the good old days. Although, this is a little unfair because the original Xbox version actually did have the two-player mode as well. It really makes no sense why these guys can't enjoy the same content today as they did before. But even the PS3 version isn't that great in this regard. If you remember playing these modes on the PS2 or Xbox, then you'll be very disappointed to find that the second player on the PS3 can't select a skin anymore. Also, it doesn't make any sense why only the PS3 version has vibration support. They didn't even feel too lazy to make an option in the menu for it. Once again, this is quite unfair towards Xbox users, because they had vibration support in the past, and now they don't. But the PS3 version isn't as superior as you might think. For example, just take a look at this magnificent waterfall in Las Venturas. Now take a look at the place on the PS3. Now take a look at another waterfall in San Fierro. And now take a look at the same place on the PS3. For some odd reason, these places are completely broken on the PS3, but at least this bug doesn't appear in the Xbox version. And now, let's compare the Xbox version with the PS3 in a slightly different way. This is how the remastered version looks on the Xbox 360 and Xbox One. And this is how it looks on the PS3. As a bonus, this is how it looks on the mobile platform. I'm not quite sure if it's a problem with my external capturing device, but the picture on the PS3 seems to be much darker. However, the picture on the PS3 looks much sharper than it does on the Xbox. I have a strange feeling that it might be missing the blur effect. If you're wondering, both of these versions were running on the original hardware in this footage. But hey, did you notice that the picture in the remastered version is a little bit jagged? Well, that's because this version suffers from a lack of an anti-aliasing feature. And it's much more irritating on the PS3 because you see these jagged edges everywhere on this platform. Don't even rely on your TV too much, it's not going to smooth these ugly edges out. These imperfections are visible even if you sit further away from your TV. But why is anti-aliasing so important to us? Well, take a look at this footage, which I captured on the emulator using a mild anti-aliasing option. And this is how it looks on the real PS3 hardware without anti-aliasing. I'm sure that you can easily see the difference now. It's just too bad the developers didn't care about it. Interestingly enough, you won't feel so uncomfortable playing the Xbox version in that regard. I mean, you can still see the edges are jagged, but thanks to that blur effect that I mentioned, the edges also look way smoother. Hell, you don't even see that the picture is blurred on the Xbox. In my opinion, the game does look better on Xbox. Do you know what the developers did with hate in the remaster? Well, they decided to reuse highly compressed and broken sounds from their mobile port. To understand this problem a little better, I would highly recommend that you use your headphones during this part. First of all, every single sound in this version was converted from stereo to mono, and once again, it doesn't make any sense. This means that in the remastered version, you can basically forget about surround sound. Here's an example, starting with how it sounds in stereo.
Classic rock the way it was meant to be enjoyed. On dust.
And now this is how it sounds in mono.
Classic rock the way it was meant to be enjoyed. On dust.
I hope you can hear the distinct difference. Secondly, all in-game sounds were highly compressed. As a result, the sound quality in this version became much worse, and to prove that, I'll show you an example with a horn. This is how it sounds in the PC version. But thanks to the compression on the Xbox, you'll hear barely audible artifacts. But honestly, even that isn't as bad as on the PS3. Sorry if your eardrums have exploded. Despite the fact that the PS3 version uses the same sound banks as the Xbox version, it sounds so much worse. It seems they didn't know how to properly code the audio in the PS3 version. But anyway, if you have good ears, then you'll perfectly hear how bad the sound quality is in this version. Here's a small bit of footage for you. But this isn't the end. Don't forget that the remastered version has a bug in the channel mixing. This means that the right channel can go silent under certain circumstances, like here. Or here. As you can see, it would be very inconvenient to play this game with headphones. Also, I noticed that some sounds in this version are completely bugged. You'll probably notice that the trains in this version don't have a braking sound. In the original version, it sounds like this. I also hate it when certain sounds in this version just vanish for no reason. Where's the damn engine sound? I feel like we're driving an electric car. To sum things up, the sound quality in this version is totally garbage, and I am not afraid to say that out loud. For some reason, the developers thought that it was a good idea to give pedestrians this horrible specular lighting, or let's say, ugly shine. I think this was supposed to be one of those improvements, one that people really didn't want to see in the game. Didn't they notice that the pedestrians look kind of unnatural and strange in comparison with the original version? Oh yeah, and thanks to this shine, we can now see that the improved character models look more blocky than the original game. Should I mention that they look as if they've been covered in wax? This shine doesn't really depend on the weather conditions, nor on where Carl is located. You'll even see it underwater. I got a funny feeling that the developers didn't have the patience to make it look good. Even the GTA community doesn't like it that much, because I constantly see comments where people are saying the characters look like they're made out of plastic or look too sweaty. On the other hand, I can't say the same thing about the new vehicle reflections. Some people love them, some people hate them. Let's talk about it. People who love them say that they're well made and look quite decent, and honestly, I can't disagree with that. The developers had to make them from scratch, and by looking at it from a game development perspective, they're done very professionally. Yep, that's right. This is something that doesn't suck in this version. I'm very impressed. On the other hand, people who hate them say that they kind of break the game's vibe. Honestly, these people are right too. Every single car in this version looks polished, and you see all these shiny cars everywhere. Even if a car has dirt on it, it'll still shine, and in my opinion, it's kind of unrealistic. As a result, I have mixed feelings about this feature, but what do you think about it? I'm not sure if this is related to the reflections, but from a certain angle, tank wheels can become a bright white color. On the other hand, it was fixed only on the PS3, where you don't see this bug anymore. The next thing we're going to talk about is the controversial autosave feature, which was introduced in the mobile port of the game. Here's how it works. As soon as you finish a mission, the game will automatically save your progress in a special slot. The problem is, it isn't that good. Let's talk about its flaws. The first problem is related to the Xbox version. Let's pretend that you completed a mission, then you decide to do irrelevant stuff, and later you save your progress in a safe house and quit the game. Well, when you launch the game again, the resume button, instead of loading your manual save, will load an autosave. Yep, the resume button only loads autosaves in this version. If you want to load your newest progress, then you have to load it manually. So what's the point of having the resume button? If you complete the game, this button becomes pretty much useless. Fortunately, this feature was greatly improved in the PS3 version. When you save your progress in a safe house, the game overrides the autosave as well. Don't you think this should be present on the Xbox version as well? I got a strange feeling that they only first noticed this flaw while redoing the save system on the PS3. The second problem is related to both PS3 and Xbox platforms. For some reason, autosave triggers are scattered around the game in very unpredictable places. Let's pretend that you want to participate in the race. You're looking at the race map, but then you change your mind and quit, and oh, look at that, you got an autosave. Here's another example. Let's pretend that you're bored and you decide to trash rival cars during the lowrider minigame. As soon as you fail the mission, you'll get an autosave. As a result, you never really know where to expect them. What if you were playing with cheats and thanks to the autosave, your progress gets screwed? Why can't we disable this feature? And lastly, some people claim that the game might even refuse to load an autosave. Just don't forget to save your game in the safe house as well. No one wants to lose their progress like this guy. Another thing we're going to talk about is this so-called enhanced or broken checkpoint system, which was introduced in the mobile port of the game. How does it work? Well, while playing the missions, you can occasionally see a text box informing you that the game created a checkpoint for you. This means that if you fail this mission, you can easily restart it from the checkpoint and try again. Easy as that, right? Well, if you remember, the checkpoint system in the original version works a little bit different. If you don't remember, after you fail a certain mission, the game will offer you to skip the ride, and that's about it. Sadly, only a few missions had this option, but at least it worked flawlessly. I'm very grateful that the remastered version doesn't create a checkpoint when you exit the game and that the resume button doesn't load it anymore by clicking the resume button. I must admit, this fixed a lot of problems from the mobile port. Just look at this mess. It was always easier to start the mission from the beginning rather than fighting with these weird bugs on the mobile platform. On the other hand, this small change didn't make the system that great, because after the game loads these checkpoints, you can still see a ton of weird and mysterious things here and there. For instance, in the Puncture Wounds mission, the checkpoint stores some vehicles from traffic. When the game loads this checkpoint, you'll see that these vehicles stand still and the drivers don't want to drive any further. But hey, sometimes you'll see something worse. For example, there's this checkpoint during the mission Drive-By. After the game loads this checkpoint, you'll see that the Ballas members are all alive, but in a few seconds they'll die one by one, but either way, this is something you don't want to see. However, sometimes the consequences are not funny at all. Take for instance these boxes from the Stowaway mission. In theory, they should disappear, but sometimes they won't. I heard that these boxes prevent people from successfully landing the plane sometimes. I also noticed that sometimes the game doesn't create a checkpoint where it should, like in the Drive-By mission. If you fail the mission, you'll have to restart it from the beginning. I hope you understand now why this system is broken. As you can see, this remastered version isn't great at all. It has a ton of flaws and weird bugs all the way around. Would you be surprised if I said there will be a second part of this video? Trust me, we have a lot of things to discuss. By the way, feel free to write me with your own problems that you've experienced in this version. Maybe there's something I don't know about yet. For more videos on GTA and other stuff, visit my YouTube channel, BadgerGoodger. I am also on Twitter, and so is Vadim, so don't forget to follow us there either. This has been Badger, stay safe out there, have a great day, and I'll see you next time.